The empty piggy bank. The rose-dusted ceramic pig, chipped at the snout, felt unnervingly weightless in Alara's palm. She'd anticipated its lightness, of course. A solitary penny had rattled within its belly like a lonely ship on a vast ocean the last time she'd shaken it. Yet, the absolute, undeniable hollowness she now perceived was a distinct kind of ache. A faint, ghost-like scent of forgotten coins and ancient dust pricked her nostrils as she tilted it toward the window's pale light, confirming the void. Not even a rogue nickel clung to the curved porcelain. No good? Leo's gentle voice, imbued with an understanding that tightened the knot in her stomach, drifted from the worn armchair where he perched. His gaze, as always, was fixed on her, not the object of her distress, a look that suggested she held the answers to questions he hadn't yet voiced. Alara exhaled a shaky, almost inaudible breath. Worse than no good. It's a monument to my fiscal aptitude, or utter lack thereof. She attempted a wry smile, but her lips felt rigid. The memory of the previous night, the easy laughter, the unexpected thrill when Mark's fingers had brushed hers across the checkered tablecloth, seemed distant, almost phantasmal. $2. That's all she'd possessed. $2 and a desperate wish. What's the damage, then? Leo asked, rising with a quiet grace. His silhouette was briefly framed by the late afternoon light filtering through the window. Alara averted her eyes, placing the ceramic pig back on the cluttered bookshelf beside a precarious stack of overdue library books. The damage, she murmured, her voice barely a whisper, is that the bill was $48. And I had two. A silence descended, thick and oppressive. Alara could feel Leo's unspoken question hanging in the air, a palpable weight. Shame, hot and unwelcome, crept up her neck. She abhorred needing assistance, detested admitting such a spectacular miscalculation. Most of all, she resented that Leo, her steadfast, ever-present Leo, was now privy to this particular humiliation. So, you went on a date with $2? His tone was calm, though a fleeting flicker in his eyes betrayed his surprise. Alara hugged her arms across her chest. It was meant to be just coffee. A quick chat. I didn't expect him to order a full meal. Or for me to get so completely engrossed in conversation that I forgot to even glance at the menu prices. The excuses spilled out, flimsy and transparent even to her own ears. Leo moved toward the small, scuffed wooden table that served as her kitchen island. He picked up a crumpled receipt lying beside a half-eaten bag of chips, his brow furrowing as he read it. He paid, then? She nodded, a fresh wave of mortification washing over her. He had to. I offered to wash dishes, I swear. He just laughed. And paid. Said it was fine. But it's not fine, Leo. It's absolutely not fine. Her voice cracked on the final word. The prospect of facing Mark again, with this unspoken dead a chasm between them, made her stomach churn. It wasn't merely the money, it was the principle, the crushing awkwardness, the profound sensation of being utterly out of her depth. Leo set the receipt back down. He offered neither platitude nor lecture. He simply looked at her, then turned and walked towards the door. Wait here, he said, his hand already on the doorknob. I'll be right back. Alara watched him leave, a fresh wave of confusion mingling with her embarrassment. What was he planning? Where was he going? The air in the small apartment suddenly felt colder, the silence echoing louder than before. She ran a hand through her hair, a knot of anxiety tightening in her chest. This was rapidly spiraling into something far more intricate than a simple unpaid bill. A sweet solution. The stale scent of coffee and lingering desperation hung heavy in Alara's cramped apartment. 2 crumpled dollar bills on the counter offered a stark, humbling echo of yesterday's audacious $2 date with Marcus. A surprising warmth, not embarrassment, colored her cheeks at the memory. He hadn't flinched, hadn't judged, he had simply been present. But warmth, she knew, wouldn't cover the looming rent or stock her sparse pantry. Think, Alara, think, she urged herself, pacing the worn linoleum. Her gaze snagged on a half-empty jar of her grandmother's plum jam. A bittersweet pang tightened her chest. Grams's familiar refrain, "When life gives you plums, make jam, sweetheart. And when it gives you lemons, well, make lemonade, but don't forget the jam," now felt like a cruel jest. Then, a fragile but insistent idea began to blossom. The farmer's market. She pictured its vibrant chaos, the wholesome aromas of earth and ripe produce. Could she sell her jam? The thought was a thrilling jolt, yet deeply terrifying. She'd always seen herself as a survivor, never an entrepreneur. Her fingers hovered over Marcus's contact on her phone. He'd offered help, a casual, genuine gesture that had caught her off guard. But pride, that stubborn, age-old companion, compelled her to try on her own first. This was her mountain to climb. Locating the market's contact information, she took a deep breath and dialed. A cheerful, bustling voice on the other end informed her of a small, last-minute stall opening for Saturday. "Just bring your goods, dear, and a smile." A smile. Elara caught her reflection, the usual tired lines around her eyes seemed a little softer, touched by a faint echo of the warmth Marcus had ignited. The next 2 days blurred into a flurry of activity. Every plum from Grams's cherished recipe, every measured spoonful of sugar, every gleaming jar became a testament to her resolve. The kitchen, usually a quiet space for hurried meals, now hummed with the gentle bubbling of fruit and the rhythmic clinking of glass. Her hands, typically accustomed to calculations and data entry, were now sticky with pectin and sweet sugar. By Friday night, she was surrounded by rows of jewel-toned jars, their contents radiating a rich, sweet aroma that, for a precious while, chased away the scent of worry. Initial fear had given way to a nervous excitement. This wasn't merely jam, it was hope, meticulously bottled and sealed. The 2 crumpled dollars were still there, but now she also possessed a plan, a truly sweet solution. The prospect of facing the market crowd, a sea of unfamiliar faces, tied a knot in her stomach. Yet, she recalled Marcus's steady gaze, his quiet conviction in her capabilities. She could do this. She had to. Tom's arrival. The scent of stale coffee and disinfectant clung to the air of the bus station, a familiar urban perfume that did little to soothe Maya's frayed nerves. Her gaze darted to the large clock above the grimy ticket counter, 2:47 p.m. Tom's bus was late. Again. A ripple of anxiety, cold and sharp, traced its way down her spine. He'd promised to be on time this once. A sudden lurch of a diesel engine outside drew her attention. A long, silver coach, its windows reflecting the overcast sky, pulled into Bay 3. Maya pushed through the small crowd, her heart thrumming a frantic rhythm against her ribs. She scanned the emerging passengers, a tired-looking woman with a screaming toddler, a student hunched over a backpack, a businessman glued to his phone. Then, she saw him. Tom. He stepped off the bus, a duffel bag slung over one shoulder, a beatific smile already gracing his lips. He looked different than she remembered from their last video call, taller, perhaps, his shoulders broader beneath the worn denim jacket. His eyes, the color of warm honey, met hers, and a spark ignited, chasing away some of the bus station gloom. Maya. His voice, deeper than she recalled, cut through the din. He strode towards her, his stride confident, his smile widening. Before she could process the sudden rush of emotions, relief, excitement, a touch of apprehension, he swept her into a tight hug. The scent of him, faint and woodsy, enveloped her, a stark contrast to the sterile station air. "You made it," she managed, her voice a little breathy, her cheek pressed against the rough fabric of his jacket. She pulled back slightly, looking up into his face. "You're late, though." He chuckled, a rich, resonant sound. "Traffic. Always traffic. But I'm here now, aren't I?" He squeezed her hand, his thumb tracing a slow circle on her skin. "You look, even more beautiful than I remembered." A blush warmed her cheeks, an unfamiliar sensation. Flatterer, she murmured, but a small smile played on her lips. She led him towards the exit, the duffel bag clunking against his leg. So, what's the plan? Did you eat? Starving, he admitted, his eyes twinkling. But first, I need to see this place you've been telling me so much about. And then, we talk. Properly. The last word hung in the air, weighted with unspoken expectation. Maya nodded, a knot tightening in her stomach. The date was tomorrow. Tonight, they had to lay the groundwork. The real test, she knew, was yet to come. The park date. The scent of freshly cut grass mingled with the faint sweetness of blooming azaleas as Lena stepped into Willow Creek Park. Her heart, a hummingbird trapped in her ribs, fluttered with a mix of anticipation and a familiar, quiet anxiety. She smoothed the skirt of her sundress, a thrift store find that felt remarkably new to her. In her hand, a small, unassuming paper bag held her contribution to the picnic, 2 perfectly ripe, if slightly bruised, apples. This was it. The $2 date. Across the expansive lawn, under the shade of a sprawling oak, Liam stood, his silhouette etched against the dappled sunlight. He wore a simple t-shirt and jeans, a casual elegance that suited him. A checkered blanket was already spread out, and beside it, a small cooler sat expectantly. He offered a warm, genuine smile that reached his eyes, crinkling at the corners. Lena, you made it. I was just about to give up on you. His voice was a low, comforting rumble. Never, she replied, her own voice feeling a little breathy. She gestured with her bag. I brought dessert. Liam chuckled, a pleasant sound that resonated with the park's tranquility. Excellent. I've got the main course covered. He gestured for her to sit, and as she settled onto the blanket, a quick glance into the cooler revealed a modest but appealing spread, 2 pre-made sandwiches wrapped in parchment paper, a small bag of chips, and 2 bottles of water. It was simple, thoughtful, and perfectly within the unspoken $2 boundary. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, the only sounds the rustle of leaves and the distant laughter of children. Lena found herself relaxing, the knot of worry in her stomach slowly unraveling. Liam wasn't extravagant, but he was attentive, offering her the larger half of a sandwich, inquiring about her day with genuine interest. When he bit into his apple, she noticed a small, almost imperceptible scar above his left eyebrow. It made him seem more real, less like the polished images she usually saw. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, a sudden gust of wind whipped through the park. It tugged at Lena's hair, sending a stray strand across her face. Liam, without hesitation, reached out and gently tucked it behind her ear, his fingers brushing her cheek. The brief touch sent a jolt, an unexpected current, through her. Their eyes met, and for a fleeting moment, the park, the picnic, and even the $2 budget faded into the background. There was just the undeniable pull between them. I had a really nice time, Liam, she confessed, the words soft but sincere. He smiled, a quiet warmth emanating from him. Me too, Lena. More than I expected. A new kind of tension, lighter and more exhilarating, now filled the space between them. The date was ending, but something, she suspected, was just beginning. Sharing sweet moments. The scent of roasted coffee and something sweet, like caramelized sugar, hung in the air of the daily grind, a stark contrast to the damp chill outside. Sarah's fingers, still cold from the walk, traced the rim of her nearly empty mug. Across from her, Mark's smile was a warm ember in the cozy cafe. So, about this project, he began, a playful glint in his eyes. You're being awfully secretive. Sarah laughed, a genuine, bubbling sound. It's not secrecy, it's suspense. You'll see. But first, she leaned forward conspiratorially, I need your expert opinion. What's the best way to package something fragile, yet visually appealing, for a market stall? Mark's brow furrowed in thought. Fragile, visually appealing, Are we talking about your grandmother's antique teacups, or something edible? Edible, mostly, she admitted, a blush rising on her cheeks. And a little bit of handcrafted, well, you'll see. She gestured around the cafe. Something like these little cardboard boxes they use for their pastries, but maybe with a clear window. He nodded slowly. Good idea. Keeps it clean, lets the product speak for itself. You could get custom labels printed, too. Maybe a nice ribbon. What's the aesthetic you're going for? The conversation flowed effortlessly from packaging to potential market locations, to the surprising intricacies of online payment systems for small businesses. Sarah found herself sharing details she hadn't intended to, anecdotes about her grandmother's baking, the frustrations of sourcing ingredients on a shoestring budget. Mark listened intently, offering practical advice and a supportive enthusiasm that was infectious. He then pulled out his phone. Speaking of market stalls, there's a craft fair next month in the old town square. It's usually pretty well attended. I could introduce you to the organizer if you're interested. Sarah's heart did a little flutter. The idea of a real market, a real opportunity, felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Really? That would be incredible, Mark. But I don't even have a full inventory yet. Doesn't hurt to explore the option, he said, his gaze warm. You've got a talent, Sarah. You should share it. He then reached across the table, his fingers gently brushing hers as he picked up her empty mug. Another coffee? Her breath hitched. The brief touch sent a shiver down her arm, a warmth spreading through her that had nothing to do with the coffee. Yes, please, she managed, her voice a little breathy. As he walked to the counter, she watched him, a new kind of sweetness blossoming in her chest, far more potent than any pastry. This wasn't just about business anymore. This was something else entirely. Something fragile, yet wonderfully appealing. A curious visitor. The scent of stale coffee and unread paperbacks usually filled the air of the daily grind, but today, a faint wisp of something floral, like jasmine and rain, cut through the familiar aroma. Clara, wiping down the counter for the third time, glanced up, her brow furrowed. The bell above the door hadn't chimed. Then she saw him. He wasn't exactly in the cafe, more like he was coalescing within the doorway, his silhouette blurring for a split second before solidifying. He was tall, dressed in a tailored suit the color of midnight, a sharp contrast to the worn jeans and faded t-shirts of the usual clientele. His eyes, the color of a stormy sea, swept over the empty tables, lingering briefly on Clara before settling on the open sign. Good morning, he said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the very floorboards. It was polite, almost deferential, yet held an undercurrent of something unyielding. I believe this establishment offers sustenance. Clara, momentarily flustered, managed a nod. We're open. What can I get for you? She gripped the rag tighter, a strange prickle of unease tracing its way up her spine. This wasn't the kind of customer who usually wandered in with vague requests. Perhaps, he began, stepping fully inside, something that speaks to local flavor. And a quiet corner, if you please. He gestured vaguely to a secluded booth near the back, overlooking the alley. A peculiar request, given the cafe was currently deserted. Clara pointed to the blackboard. We have our morning special, an egg and cheese croissant, or any of our pastries. Coffee, tea, he walked past the display case, barely glancing at the glistening pastries. No, nothing so pedestrian. I seek something with a story. His gaze met hers again, and for a moment, Clara felt a curious pressure, as if he were sifting through her thoughts. A story, perhaps, that involves a recent encounter. Clara's heart gave a sudden, hard thump. The $2 date, the inexplicable generosity of the stranger, the whole bizarre evening, it was all she'd thought about for days. I'm not sure what you mean, she said, her voice a little too tight. He smiled, a slow, knowing curve of his lips that didn't quite reach his eyes. Oh, I think you do, Clara. Perhaps a cup of your strongest coffee, then. And a moment of your time. He moved towards the booth, his movements fluid and silent, like a shadow detaching itself from the wall. The floral scent intensified, then dissipated as he settled into the cushions, his gaze fixed expectantly on her. The silence in the cafe stretched, heavy with unspoken questions. The bakery offer. The scent of warm yeast and melting butter clung to Clara's clothes as she carefully stacked cooling sourdough rounds onto a wire rack. Mrs. Henderson, her kind but no-nonsense boss, bustled in from the back, wiping floury hands on her apron. "Clara, a moment." Clara turned, a faint unease settling in her stomach. Lately, Mrs. Henderson's pronouncements often preceded an unexpected shift or a new, daunting task. "Yes, Mrs. Henderson. You've been with me a year now," the older woman began, her gaze surprisingly soft. "And in that year, you've proven yourself invaluable. Your eye for detail, your knack with the brioche dough, it's rare." Mrs. Henderson paused, her fingers drumming lightly on the counter. "I'm looking to retire by the end of the year. My knees aren't what they used to be, and I want to see my grandchildren more than just holidays." Clara's heart gave a strange lurch. Retirement? That meant a new owner, new management. Her secure, if modest, job might be at risk. "I've been approached by a few interested parties," Mrs. Henderson continued, as if reading Clara's thoughts. "But none of them feel right. They want to modernize, streamline. They don't understand the heart of this place." She finally met Clara's eyes, a serious glint in her own. "I'm offering you the first right of refusal. I'm offering you the opportunity to buy Henderson's bake shop." The words hung in the air, dense as the morning's humidity. Clara gaped, her mouth suddenly dry. Buy a bakery? Her. The girl who barely scraped by, who meticulously tracked every dollar, who had just last week agonized over a $2 coffee. The idea was preposterous, intoxicating. "Me? Mrs. Henderson, I don't have that kind of money." The practical reality crashed down, cold and hard. Mrs. Henderson gave a knowing smile. "I know you don't have it liquid, dear. But I've seen your dedication. I've seen how you treat this place. We can work out a payment plan. A loan, with me as the backer. You put down what you can, and we structure the rest." She leaned closer, her voice conspiratorial. "Think about it, Clara. Your own bakery. No more worrying about rent, no more watching every penny because you're working for someone else. This is your chance to build something." Clara imagined the morning sun streaming through the storefront, glinting off the polished glass cases, filled with pastries she had created. The thought sparked a warmth in her chest, a thrilling sense of possibility. But then the familiar anxieties crept in, the immense responsibility, the risk of failure, the sheer audaciousness of it all. It was a terrifying, exhilarating proposition. She thought of Leo, of their easy laughter, of the comfort she'd found in his presence. Would he think she was crazy? Or would he see the dream in her eyes, the one that was suddenly, terrifyingly real? I need to think about it," Clara managed, her voice a little shaky. Mrs. Henderson nodded, her expression understanding. "Take your time. But don't take too long. Opportunities like this don't come often." She patted Clara's arm. "And if you say no, I'll still need you for the next few months to train the new owners. So either way, your brioche dough is safe. A sweet new beginning." The aroma of warm sugar and roasted nuts clung to Alara like a second skin as she emerged from the bakery. Her apron, still dusted with flour despite a vigorous shaking, lay folded neatly in her oversized tote bag. A genuine smile, one that reached her eyes and banished the familiar tension from her jaw, softened her features. 3 weeks. 3 weeks since the fateful date with Liam, 3 weeks since she'd taken the leap and applied for the assistant baker position at the Crumble and Crust. And now, after her first full week, the air felt lighter, the city a vibrant tapestry instead of a gray blur. Her phone buzzed, a cheerful tune she'd recently set. It was Liam. A little flutter, almost imperceptible, stirred in her chest. "Hey," she answered, her voice still carrying the slight huskiness from hours of early morning chatter with old Mrs. Gable, the head baker. "Just checking in, sweet pea. How was the first official week of making the world a better, more delicious place?" Liam's voice, a low rumble, always managed to calm the lingering jitters. Elara laughed, a light, melodious sound. "Exhausting, sticky, and utterly wonderful. You should have seen Mrs. Gable try to teach me the secret to her sourdough starter. It's practically alive." She paused, a thought blooming in her mind. "Actually, why don't you see it? Are you free for dinner?" A beat of silence, then, "I'd love to. Any preference?" "Surprise me," Elara said, then added, a playful challenge in her tone, "but make it somewhere with actual cutlery this time." The memory of their first date, eating street tacos with plastic forks, brought a warmth to her cheeks. Liam chuckled. "Consider it done. 7 o'clock. Perfect." She hung up, a spring in her step as she navigated the bustling sidewalk. The world felt expansive. No longer did she dread the endless cycle of low-paying gigs and the constant gnawing worry about rent. The bakery might not be a gilded palace, but it was stability, a path, and the sheer joy of creating something tangible and delicious. As she reached her apartment building, a small, worn envelope lay tucked under her door. Her heart gave an unpleasant lurch. It was from her landlord, the familiar block lettering spelling out overdue rent notice. The old anxieties, though dulled, were still potent. Her new income wouldn't start hitting her account for another week. The tension in her shoulders, which had only just begun to relax, tightened once more. This was the push, the inevitable struggle she'd known would come. She slipped the envelope into her bag without opening it, the sweet scent of the bakery suddenly unable to mask the acrid smell of impending worry. Tonight, she would enjoy Liam's company. Tomorrow, she would face the numbers. But the bitterness of the notice lingered, a subtle counterpoint to the sweetness of her new beginning. More than just $2. The familiar clatter of cutlery against ceramic, usually a soothing cadence, now felt like an indictment to Elara. Across the small, scarred table, Liam meticulously picked at a loose splinter, his brow deeply furrowed. A heavy silence pressed in, broken only by the city's distant thrum and the refrigerator's low, persistent hum in her tiny apartment. "Look, I'm sorry," she finally managed, the words acrid on her tongue. Her practiced apologies, an attempt to balance contrition with self-preservation, evaporated into a pathetic whisper. I should have told you." Liam's fingers stilled. His gaze, usually warm and softened by a perpetual crinkle at the corners, was an impenetrable shield. "Told me what, Elara? That this was all a charade? That our connection was just some twisted social experiment?" His voice, stripped of its usual playful lilt, was a low, cutting blow. The accusation stung, a raw, exposed nerve. "It wasn't a game. Not for me, it wasn't. The $2, that was utterly real. My budget was genuinely $2. The whole blog, the challenge, it started long before I ever met you. I swear." She reached out, her hand hovering tentatively between them, before retreating to her lap. The space crackled with unsaid truths, heavy with the weight of her deception. He leaned back, pushing his half-eaten pasta plate away. "So, what? I was merely a prop in your narrative. The charming, empathetic fellow who fell for the struggling artist." His sarcasm was a sharp, biting lash. "No." Elara's voice rose, a desperate, raw plea. "Liam, you are so much more. The blog was just a coping mechanism, a silly idea my friend cooked up. Meeting you, that shifted everything. I genuinely wanted to know you. The $2 wasn't some elaborate trick, it was simply, my reality back then. And the blog exploded faster than I ever anticipated. I panicked. Terrified of losing you if I confessed, terrified of public judgment. Her throat tightened, tears pricking her eyes. He watched her, his expression slowly shifting from anger to a profound hurt. Scared? Elara, we spoke for hours that night. About our lives, our aspirations. You allowed me to believe we were forging something authentic, free of hidden agendas or virtual audiences. She swallowed hard. It was authentic. Every shared laugh, every word, it was all real for me. The blog was just background noise I should have silenced. I wanted to tell you, so many times. But then it became this colossal thing, and the pressure. I just didn't know how. Liam ran a hand through his hair, a long, weary sigh escaping him. You should have trusted me. His voice was quiet now, imbued with a deep sorrow that cut deeper than any rage. That's what stings the most, Elara. Not the $2, not even the blog. It's your lack of trust in me, your inability to be honest. He pushed his chair back, the harsh scrape a jarring punctuation in the silent room. I need time to process this. He walked towards the door, his silhouette framed against the dim hallway light. Liam, please, she whispered, her voice fractured. But he was already gone, the soft click of the door echoing the sudden, cavernous emptiness in her chest. The pasta grew cold on the table, the silence now an unbearable roar. It wasn't just $2 she'd gambled, it was everything.